50 years ago, Gord and Lightfoot released Gord's Gold, a
So you might
double
want
album that remains his
to
biggest seller. And today we're revisiting that special release and somehow choosing just four songs to highlight from it. Well, from the first half of it at least. Come on in and I will explain all. Hey, I'm JSB, a Gordon Lightfoot fanatic from a very young age, and I'm joined again by my friend and fellow Lightfoot addict, Bostart. Great to have you with me here once again, my friend. How are we?
We're good. Good to be talking good.
Excellent. So, um, this album that we're going to be diving into has the prestige, if you can call it that, of being the second album that I ever bought with my own money, following Billy Joel's Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2. So I am going to say I was 7 years old when this entered my collection. Uh, and we had the Sundown album already in Mum's collection. So that's how I got into Gord in the first place. But that was all I knew. Where and how did Gord enter your world?
I was lucky enough to have an aunt and uncle who sang and played guitars, which was a window on the musical world for me because my parents' record collection was really only classical. But one of the songs they used to do was Early Morning Rain. I didn't used to, ask them who wrote that. Can I get it on a record somewhere? They were just songs they did and I enjoyed. And I was sitting in my local library one day, which had a really good music section, and a songbook called The Great Songs of Gordon Lightfoot caught my eye, and it said featuring Early Morning Rain. I thought, oh yeah, Aunt Tessa does that one. But it wasn't till about 10 years later that I thought, well, I really like that song. I've always loved that song. Why didn't I dip my toe in a bit more? I borrowed the book from the book and taught myself to play a few. And uh, I bought an 18-song compilation called The Best Of, which isn't in print anymore. It was a Warner's compilation, and
Ah,
but it's from '81. It had quite a few from Gold and a selection from what came after, and I was hooked.
I'm assuming most people who are watching this are Lightfoot fans and know a bit about this album. Um, of course, today we're concentrating on the first disc, which is where he did fresh up to the minute for 1975 re-recordings of his early stuff from the United Artists days. Um, it says in the liner notes for this album itself simply that he did that because he didn't like listening to his early work, but we know that's basically nonsense. It doesn't go into great detail about it in this wonderful biography, but it basically does say he was just sick of United Artists putting out cash and compilation after cash and compilation as he became more and more successful and famous as the 70s progressed. They had put out, I think, 5 albums, uh, which is as many as he'd recorded for them in the first place. So they were basically putting an album out a year, trying to cash in on whatever his latest release was. And he was tired of that. So he thought he'd put this full compilation together. The second disc, of course, comprises his current songs in the original format that he'd recorded for Reprise Records. Put it all out as one big double compilation, and lo and behold, it worked. And United Artists vanished and didn't re-release any of that old stuff for many, many more years. It was a slow and steady seller. Only reached number 34 in the US Billboard charts, and took about 18 months to go gold. Oddly enough, then it was certified platinum in 1986 and double platinum in 1994, which is its most recent certification. It could do with an audit, and you'd find that it had got at least another million in there, but we'll probably never know because who's going to bother to do that? Anyway, today we are treating it to my special format of the random foreplay, just listening to those 10/12 earlier recorded songs, throwing those on shuffle and choosing either out of 2 or 3 options each time to find out what we think is the absolute pinnacle of the gold on Gord's Gold. And we'll see how we go. Basically, we're going to miss an awful lot of great songs, but we're going to hear probably 4 really fantastic ones along the way, I would hope. Because there are officially 10 tracks and we've got 4 to choose from, I thought what we'd do is we'll each have a choice of 2 and we'll each have a choice of 3. But um, I'm going to give you your first 2 choices, and you can either decide just to pick from one of those 2 or get a third option in for your first choice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's do that and see what track we're going to start with. All right. Randomizer, do your work. Right. Option 1, Softly. Option 2, Canadian Railroad Trilogy. Would you like to choose from those two, or would you like a third option?
Canadian Railroad Trilogy, please.
Which is the correct option. If you'd chosen anything else, I would have had to shoot you. I mean, no, you choose what you want
I
every
have heard.
time. But yeah, this is, for me, I don't know if it's my favorite Gordon song, but for me, it's kind of his definitive song. And this is the definitive version of it. There's no bad versions of the song, but this one I love more than any other. So let's hear it. This is the 1975 version of Canadian Railroad Trilogy. Right, there we are. Canadian Railroad Trilogy from the 1975 Gord's Gold compilation. Where do you stand on your favorite version of that song? Is that it, or do you prefer something else?
This one, definitely. I mean, maybe I'm a bit biased because this is the first one I heard, but on this one, the tempo change when it gets into part two, because it's not a 1, 2, 3 trilogy, it's like 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. But when it gets into that, they look to the future and what they see. It's more of a gentle tempo change rather than the very quick tempo change of the way it's done on the Way I Feel album in 1967.
Yeah, and for me, this is peak Lightfoot. His voice is at its absolute best in this period, I think, and he's got almost his full classic band around him at this stage. Obviously, you've got both Terry Clements and Red Shea on guitars in this brief period, which I never know again who's playing what. Sadly, the liner notes don't say who's doing what on this one, like they did on the Sundown album. Um, Likewise on bass, it could be Rick Haynes, could be John Stockfish, not really sure. Someone will know out there. So if you do know, let us know. And uh, the arrangements actually on this particular release are done by Lee Holdridge rather than Nick DeCaro, who had done most of his reprise albums up to this point. And I think they're masterful. I mean, they pinpointed almost to exactly 1975, but to me that's not a bad thing. So yeah, I mean, the song was just extraordinary, and I was in Canada for the first time last year, and it's impossible to be on a train in Canada and not have the song going through your head. So, for those who don't know, he wrote this for kind of the centenary of Canada, wasn't it? So,
The
uh,
centenary of its
in
establishment, yeah.
yeah, in the songbook box, which of course includes the original "Way I Feel" version, he says he got the idea to write it long from a mentor of his called Bob Gibson, who had a song called the Civil War Trilogy, and he basically used the same format with the slow middle section from that, and that was his key to unlocking how to get this song done. And a guy who'd written a full book about the history of the Canadian Railway told Gord at one stage that he'd managed to say more in his 6 minute song than he had done in his whole book. So Gord took that as quite a compliment. I'm not going to say it's all downhill from here because there's still plenty of greatness to come, but that has always been the highlight of this entire compilation for me. Yeah, let's have a look and see what my choices are going to be for our second offering. Oh, and by the way, I should have said already, but I haven't, so I'll say it now. For those watching and wondering where the music just disappeared to, this video is already quite long enough, but if you do want to hear the songs with us, there'll be a link to an even longer version where all the music is contained in full. So yeah, that little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Let's have a look and see where we head next. All right, so Early Morning Rain or Song for a Winter's Night. Well, I could give myself a third option, but I'm choosing between these two is going to be quite hard enough. I suppose. Oh, I'd lean slightly towards Song for a Winter's Night, but given what you'd already said, I will say I can't skip Early Morning Rain. So
Go with your gut. Don't
that's
go with me. I've had a choice. Had my first.
Um,
Go with you.
yeah. Well, you see, that's the thing is I can't really decide. So it's a coin cost anyway. A coin cost? See, I can't even talk today. This is
Spoonerism.
how badly this is affecting me. No, I'm going to be brave, bold, and distinctive, and make a choice all on my own. And I am going to stick with the Early Morning Rain because it is a classic and it needs to be heard. And again, I do think that this, again, it's possibly just because this is the version I grew up listening to for so many years, but it is the definitive reading of a widely covered song. And it's one of those songs that's made his name. So let's do it. We will not be riding a freight train on the Canadian Railroad, but we will be jumping a jet plane in the early morning rain. Here we go. All right, so early morning rain, and get another stone cold all time Gordon Lightfoot classic there. When I got this album, of course, it revealed to me that that song, along with For Loving Me, were first recorded by Ian and Sylvia, um, who were beloved of my mother. She had 6 or 7 of their albums from when she visited Canada in her teen years, but she didn't have the Early Morning Rain album. So I didn't know of that connection until I took this home with me and read that. Um, but again, in the liner notes here, he mentions that when Elvis recorded the song, he used the Ian and Sylvia arrangement. Um, and Gord was delighted that Elvis did it. But yeah, obviously Peter, Paul, and Mary covered it soon after as well. They were all part of the Albert Grossman entourage. So he had Gord as a solo and some other chap called Dylan that you might have heard of. The Ian and Sylvia as the duo and Peter, Paul, and Mary as the trio. So he was covering all his bases there. And they all recorded it. Even Dylan got around to it eventually. Um, but yeah, do you have a favorite cover version? Or just you doing it yourself, perhaps?
I have done. I do have a recorded version of it from about 20 years ago that I did actually, where I sing it in duet with myself in a counter harmony, but I'm kind of
Oh wow!
stopping. But the best cover version released has to be for me has to be Peter, Paul, and Mary. I mean, it's I mentioned my aunt and uncle performing songs. That's it was their version that it was based on. I later discovered, and I
Right.
was quite surprised when she found Lightfoot wrote it.
Yeah. Likewise, my we had a best of Peter, Paul, and Mary that didn't have early morning rain on it. Unfortunately, it did have For Love and Me, which we'll possibly discuss in a little while. But weirdly, on the label, I can't remember what the name was. It was wrong. They credited it to a Gordon, but it wasn't Lightfoot. Um, I don't quite know how that happened, but yeah. So it was a surprise when it turned out that to me that it was actually his song. Anyway, that was a tough choice. Anybody watching, please let us know if you had to choose between Song for a Winter's Night and Early Morning Rain and could only hear one of them. Would you have gone the same way or would you have gone the other? No wrong answers because they're both stellar tunes. And yeah, it was hard. And things are probably only going to be harder now because we have 3 choices or 3 song choices for our remaining 2 selections. So are you ready for your choice of 3?
I am.
Alrighty. Let's see what I can offer you. Um, you've got Bitter Green, Steel Rail Blues, or For Love and Me slash Did She Mention My Name?
I'm not going to pick the medley. I'll come straight out about that one. So it's down to the other two. Let's go with Bitter Green.
Sure. Uh, so we talked before we started recording about whether we'd managed to get a song from each of the 4 albums from the United Artists era. So we've already had a representation from The Way I Feel and one from his debut, Lightfoot. This one gives us a track from his final studio album with UA, which was Back Here on Earth. Um, and it, in its re recorded version at least, sounds like this. Righty, Billy Green. You know, for me, that's the song that didn't connect with me when I was 7 years old. And there's actually one that I didn't appreciate for a long time because of that. It was when I finally got the United Artists albums and heard the original that that one kind of unlocked itself for me. Um, so, how about you? Do you have a favorite version, or
I think it has to be this one, just because the harmonies really lift it up when there's no harmony on the original version on Back Here on Earth, which I will just add, Back Here on Earth is my favourite Lightfoot album. The irony is, it kind of made me, it deepened my desire to go over and see Canada. But the irony is that Gordon actually flew over here to England to write the songs.
yes, yeah, he actually wrote Billy Green in a taxi from Heathrow.
Yes, and it was partly inspired by his first wife, whose name was Beata. She was a Swedish lady.
Yeah, I've actually been to the church that they married in.
Ah, in Sweden.
Uh, yeah, at the time I was there, I didn't know that that's where they'd been married. That's yeah, it's I don't. I mean, Back Here on Earth is a great album, as are all the United Artists albums. I think if this album has done something wrong over the years, it's that people have probably listened to it and just thought, okay, that's all the good stuff from those years. We don't need to go back and listen to those albums. And if that's what you've done, anybody out there, please don't go and listen to those four albums in full because they are full of wonderful, wonderful songs. And what's on Gord's Gold is really only a small sampler. Um, and of course, what we're playing today is only a small sampler of that small sampler. So uh, you really can't go wrong with. I mean, I think you can still get the United Artists collection relatively cheaply, which is a double disc that has all those studio albums in full. Then all we had to do is get Sunday Concert to complete the set. Um, right. Now I know what I'm left with for my final selection. And if I thought my previous choice was difficult, well, this one's nigh on impossible. But let's go through the motions and see what order it serves them up to me in, and I'll try and make an intelligent decision. I have got the opening medley, which is I'm Not Sayin and Ribbon of Darkness, Wherefore and Why, and of course Affair on 8th Avenue. So here's where I am on this one. Um, the opening medley is wonderful and has an awful lot of memories for just simply being the first thing I heard on this album all those years ago. Wherefore and Why is from my favorite of the United Artists albums. Did you mention my name? And is the one of those albums that we haven't yet heard a song from. And then Affair on 8th Avenue is another favorite of mine. Um, and I'm kind of leaning towards that one because it suffered uh, the outrage of being removed from the CD version of this album when, due to timing restrictions, they had to lop a song off, and that is the one.
What was even more ignominious was that, what I mean, those days when CDs stretched to 75 minutes rather than the 80 they do now, and a lot of older stuff was being put out on CD for the first time. Longer albums, like double albums, live albums, were suffering that fate. But usually what got locked from those resurfaced as like either on a compilation or on a bonus track on another reissue. But for Affair on 8th Avenue, that didn't happen. They didn't, but I think that's partly because the Lightfoot CD reissues, they weren't all done in one lump. It was done very, very piecemeal. Well, the albums from 70, 74 and 76 got there first because, they each had one of the three really big Lightfoot songs on them. And then the others just sort of followed in dribs and drabs with time. So there wasn't really a very coordinated pattern. So poor old Affair on 8th Avenue got lost until the download where it was made available again.
Yeah, so if you listen to this album on streaming, it is there, and you, as Bostart said, you can download it, which I have done so that I had it complete again. So on that basis, because it's slightly forgotten, and again is my favorite version by quite a distance over the original, I think. Uh, I'm going to end us with that particular recording today. So anybody who's listening to Gord's Gold via the original CD and missing out on this track, this is also for you to hear what you've been missing all this time. Affair on 8th Avenue. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Fair on 8th Avenue. And I think the first time I heard the original that just really ends quite abruptly on the final word rather than having the intro replayed. Kind of threw me the first time. And I do much prefer it having that symmetry to the arrangement. Um, and yeah, I think this is one of those songs that inspired my lifelong love of minor keys. How about you? Where does this stand? Again, it's I know from your favorite Lightfoot album of all. Do you prefer this to the original though, or
There isn't
not?
much difference between them for me. I think maybe it's because I know it less well because I started with the CD of Gord's Guild like a lot of us did. But no, I think when you compare the recordings of these songs on here to the originals, Affair on 8th Avenue is the one where I spot the least difference. So it's but either way, it's a really beautiful song. Although it's not one of, I wouldn't say it's one of my favourites. It wouldn't be on my top 5 songs from back here on Earth.
Right. Which yeah, kind of ties into what I was saying before that there's so many songs missing from this album, and even when you get to the songbook, which has the first disc is roughly 20 songs from that era, but there's no Black Day in July. There's no gosh, what's missing from here? Um, Hold Hands from New York. Uh, you name it. There's you can't get all of the best Gord songs onto a compilation. You just got to get all the albums, really. But, yeah, this is one of those defining compilations that, as I say, it's his biggest seller and certainly the States. And like most greatest hits albums, it's kind of a case of, well, yes, all the biggest stuff is here, but it by no means is more than a sampler of what he has to offer. That's well, some people might just be happy having this and nothing else, but not enough for me. um, so if you were to go through those choices again, what what would you have actually picked out of my options? Do you think?
Out of your options,
Mm.
I think out of those last two, I'd have gone for Wherefore and Why. Not just for the representation from each album, but that's such a. It's my favourite song for when I wake up. When I woke this morning, something inside of me told me this would be my day. And at that point, when I first heard it, I'd just been to America for the first time. I was planning a year out, and I really felt like life was really starting to happen for me. You get these
Nice.
things in your early 20s. Now in my early 50s, of course, it's a bit of a different story.
Yeah, getting up in the morning is increasingly difficult. But yeah, I could have gone with any of the three choices that I had there quite happily. I'm sort of glad I didn't get your choice of three. I'd probably have gone Steel Rail Blues, but none of those three were really my top favorites.
I nearly picked that one. I just think the guy in there's such a prat. I mean, yeah, go have a little flutter, but why gamble your ticket away?
Well, the trouble with gambling is that you always think that you can peel it back until you've got absolutely nothing left. Uh, um, yeah, and speaking of that, we've got nothing left because we've gone through the album here, selected some very high highs from an interesting release and an important one in Gord's career. But as I say, if this is all you know from Gord, please don't stop here. There's so much more to discover in his long career. Um, and yeah, do let us know what you would have picked out of the ones that the options that we had today, and we'll be back to have a look at the anniversary of Summertime Dream sometime in 2026. I Can't remember off the top of my head when that came out. Probably feels like a summer album. Meanwhile, it is, of course, merely bye for now, but not for long.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.